my YouTube friends! I saw a video recently from Senpai Gaming where Harris says you could replace OBS with Meld. I did a video on Meld Studio a while back, and from what Harris showed, it looks like Meld Studio has come a long way since then. So I decided to see for myself by trying to build my live stream in Meld Studio. Now, admittedly, my live stream is pretty extreme. I use it more as a test bed and a tech demo to show you guys what's possible on a live stream. Most normal live streams would never be that complex on purpose. Still, I wanted to find out if I could actually do it. We're going to find out today and explore Meld Studio together. So you know what? Let's get to it! Now, generally speaking, I'm a person who learns stuff through breaking it. Anyone who has seen my car channel for the love of cars knows this about me. I think the more you break, the more you learn, and that has enabled me to be more creative with my streams and figure out how to use different things in ways they probably weren't intended to get the results I want. And that's the sort of experimentation that's enabled me to bring some pretty advanced content to the channel, to do things that you haven't seen anywhere else. And more importantly, I try to make it easy enough for anyone to do. With that being said, I do realize that OBS by its nature is a complicated tool. So applications like Meld Studio that simplify a lot of the process can be really awesome. Now, there are links in the description down below so you can download it and follow along with me. That is the best way to learn, and installing Meld Studio is a breeze. Let me show you. So here is the page for Meld Studio, and it does say 100% free with no watermarks and no limits. So we'll see. I don't know how you make money that way, but it's all good. You get a little bit of a demo display of what this thing looks like, and down here, it is integrated with Elgato, which means it should work with the Stream Deck and all that sort of stuff. Twitch, YouTube, and of course, StreamerBot, which is really important for me because I use it a lot, and we're not going to be able to recreate my stream unless it is supported by both StreamerBot and Elgato. It looks pretty cool so far. We've got multi-streaming to unlimited destinations for free, built right in. Yeah, well, get the point. Let's go ahead and download it and see if it's going to work. So I'm just going to click download. You can see it does have a Windows and a Mac OS version. I'm on a Windows machine right now, so we'll just click that and download it. And then we just need to go into our downloads folder. I'm going to double click it, and here we go. It's going to automatically check for updates, blah, blah, blah. Let's go with install. And once it's done, it just kind of goes away and brings it up. And we're all set. We have it totally installed. Let's see what this thing can do. Now it's installed. That was pretty easy. Let's see how far I get recreating my live stream in Meld Studio. Okay, so I took the liberty of building a large percentage of my main scene. As you can see, my main overlay. So we've got all of our label stuff down here. Our chat is in here. It doesn't look as good or even the same as it does in my normal stream right here because for some reason it doesn't actually remove the background. But I did get it to scroll sideways, and the nice thing about it is because it didn't remove the background, I thought, well, I'll add something fun to it, and I did add a glow to it. So if we click effects, you can see there's a glow effect on the outside of that. The other thing that I noticed that was not included, if we go down here to the bottom two levels, we've got my main, which is that video in the background. If I go ahead and remove that, you can see there's my video in the background. And above that, we have particles. In an OBS, I would use a blend mode to make those particles have a certain look. So if I remove the opacity, there's what the particles actually look like. So a blend mode will kind of overlay that on top of my background video. But we don't have any blend modes here. So in order to make that work, I've got to use opacity. And I have to admit that the results aren't quite as snappy as they would be in OBS using the blend mode. But it works. And basically we have something that looks pretty much exactly like my background scene that you would see on my live stream. So the next thing is to add my camera. So I would click the plus here, and I'm going to double click here and NS main camera. Okay, and I use NS because I intend to use nested scenes just like I would in OBS so that I don't have to have more than basically this in here. I can just add any other overlays that might be used frequently in here as one piece. So all of the redeems that I use for my chat games and that sort of stuff, all of those redeems have their own scene. And then I just add that scene in here on top so that they play whenever they're necessary. But this scene doesn't have a million sources or layers in this case, is what they call it here. So I'm going to use the main camera. And what I'm going to do is just go up here and add a camera. So here they're called video devices. And I can drop this down and select the device I want. In this case, I'm going to go with the snap camera. And there we go. And I can stretch this out so it fits the entire screen. And boom. Now we're all set. We've got my camera. So we've got two scenes. My main background and my camera. And this is where I started to run into some issues. Almost every effect that I use on my channel uses a couple of different things that I don't see here. For one, the background removal for me. I don't want to have a green screen in the background. Sometimes I want to have my regular background. But I have all kinds of alerts and effects that remove my background and add a different screen behind me. Or just use my regular background but also remove me, so that we do like the Mr. Freeze Ice effect. Or maybe we do old-timey where we have the monocle and all that sort of stuff. And none of that is possible without the ability to remove the background without using a green screen. And that's just not available here. Now, you remember how I said I like to find ways to do things that maybe they weren't intended? I promise you that I could find a way to remove the background and add that in as a separate scene and all that sort of stuff. But again, it goes against the spirit of the purpose of this software, which is to make things easier. So if I wanted to do things like curl my corners or something like that, well, that's really easy in here. I can also add drop shadows and things like that super easily. So let's move this up, and just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to go ahead and add a video in the background here. So I'm going to go and load in a media source, and we'll drag this down so it's below. And in order to start it, you got to go over here and start it. So it'll start that little background video. But now I can select my camera right here, and I can go over here to effects, and I can add a drop shadow to that by clicking this plus here. And we can go right to the drop shadow, and boom. And then all we have to do is select this right here, and we can change the distance of our drop shadow. We can change the softness of our drop shadow and the opacity. We can even change the color of the drop shadow and the angle. Once we deselect it, you can see that adds a really nice drop shadow, super easy to create. But most of the transitions that I do on my channel aren't necessarily move transitions. So in other words, what I can do is I can take this scene, my main camera scene, I can duplicate it, and now we've got a main camera too. And what I can do is move this camera down here, shrink it up a little bit, and you're going to see when I switch between these two scenes, it'll just very nicely move that camera around. And that's super cool and super easy, but all of the transitions that are available in OBS, where I can right click and I can say, for this scene, I want this to transition in a certain way, or I can even have separate transitions for each individual source, which I use a lot in my live stream. Well, that's missing here. So you can easily create a beautiful transition just like that. However, you don't get a lot of choice. Let's go up here into File, and we're going to go into Preferences. So in Preferences, we can see that we've got some different things here. But if we go to Transitions, the Move Transition is selected. And if we drop it down, we can do Cut, Fade, and Morph. So there are a couple of other transitions, but there's no stingers or anything like that. And then we have our Easing Curve, and we have the Duration, and the Layer Reordering Mode. So basically, those are the only options that you really get on the transition. So you're not able to make it anywhere near as comprehensive as it was. Now, one of the things that I kind of found pretty cool was, you know, I can take this camera and I can move it over here, and I can kind of crop it up like this, right? And now when I move back and forth, it's going to morph it into the other one. And then what I could do is take this camera and I can flip it like that, right? And now when I move, it's kind of cool. Boom, it flips the camera. So that's kind of a cool little transition that we could do with this. I can take this second scene and move this and have it like that, you know, for something a little more interesting. And now it'll morph both of those into different shapes or sizes. And all that's required for you to be able to do this is to have the actual asset. In this case, this asset is called Snap Camera, and this asset is just the name of the video. And as long as both of those assets are named the same in the layers mode, when we switch, it will do the move transition. If I change the name of this, then it wouldn't do it. So if I were to name this Sony, and then I go back and forth, you can see that it doesn't do it. It just does a cut and fade, basically. And once I rename it back to Snap Camera, then it will do our little flipsy doodle and all that stuff. So that's really cool, but it's not going to recreate my live stream as I would expect it. Let's go back up here into File and Preferences. So we can add outputs in here just like it says. We can add outputs, YouTube, Twitch, or custom. So we could go to Rumble or X or any of the other ones. We can add all those in here. And it's pretty simple. You can actually log into YouTube and it will put your stream key information in here if you want. And then you just hit start the stream when you're going live and you're all set. I'm just going to put some random numbers in here so it lets me go back. We'll go to plugins, we'll go to general, and we can see YouTube's there. I can add another output. We could add Twitch. I'll just put some jibberty job numbers in there. And next thing you know, we go back to plugins and back here and boom. Now we're streaming to both YouTube and Twitch when we click go live, which is really nice. All of the settings here are really super simple. You just set your canvas at whatever you want, and you set your frame rate at whatever you want, your video bit rate, and you want to check hardware encoder just in case you have one or you don't. And you know, you can set your quality here, but it's all really super simple so that it's not going to be confusing or difficult for anyone to figure out. I mean, basically you set your bit rate and you check hardware encoder and you're pretty much ready to go. Now you can add plugins in here if you set the path, but I'm not aware of any plugins yet. If you go into advanced, you can turn on the WebSocket and that'll allow you to use StreamerBot and some of the Stream Deck tools. There isn't much here in audio at all, just your output device, which generally speaking, should be set to your headphones. You can install the virtual camera if you like it or you need it. You can turn on smart guides, which are going to put little lines on your screen to help you to line up different assets and that sort of stuff. We already kind of went through transitions and hotkeys, and that's pretty much it. That's about as simple as it could possibly get. There isn't really much more to know. And that is the biggest benefit of using something like Meld Studio. You don't have to know much of anything to be able to figure it out and use it. And you can create some pretty awesome stuff. So other things that we can do real easily is we've got presets down here, so it works just like Instagram filters where I can set different looks up for my camera. Now if I go over here, you can see that it doesn't transfer from scene to scene, so you don't have to worry about adding adjustments on one camera and having it be on the other scene in weird, funky ways or anything like that. It's only for that particular scene. And we can go into effects and click the plus, and we can see all kinds of different effects here. You've got your chroma key, so if you do have a green screen, you can use it. So to be able to apply these effects is pretty cool, and obviously you can set up these effects and apply them using the little eyeball here. So you can set up alerts and that sort of stuff using StreamerBot that turn these effects on and off on your camera and do a lot of really cool creative things. The audio tracking here is pretty simple. When you load your camera in, your camera stuff loads in. When you load an audio source in, it loads that in. You can click the plus to add other audio sources, and you can basically select the device down here to decide which audio source that you want to add. You can also change from input to output devices and process sources. So if we wanted to select the Discord source, then we could get audio from Discord. Pretty cool stuff. So we could select that and we would get audio from Discord if Discord is coming in. We can also drop this down and rename this to the Discord track or whatever we want. Makes bringing in audio from applications or other audio sources really simple. And you've got some buttons right here, which are pretty cool. You can edit the delay, speed it up, slow it down, all this sort of stuff. You can make it a global audio track, which means it's going to turn up in every scene. And you can actually exclude from the Twitch VOD. So if you have a music source, you can actually go in here and select that music source. It will be excluded from Twitch VODs and won't get you strikes. So the audio stuff is pretty simple and easy. However, you really can't replace OBS with this. There are just way too many features that I use all the time that aren't in here. One of the main features is actually, you notice I set all of these up as nested scenes. Except for that when we go up here, we can't actually add a scene. So there's no way to add a scene. So we can add a video device, which is a camera. We can use a display capture to capture any of the displays on your system. You just drop them down here and you select the display you want and boom, we've got our display in there. Super easy. We can round off the edges and all that stuff with these, just the same as any other. Media source, which is essentially videos, images, which is images. We've got our browser sources, which I used on a couple of different things to bring in the stream labels, and I also used it for our text from any kind of chat or whatever. Worked just fine, exactly like it worked in OBS, except for that for the chat, for some reason it retained the background instead of just giving us the chat. The duplicator works the same way as the clone tool does in OBS. It allows you to clone sources in the same scene, which is pretty nice. Let's take a look. I haven't messed around with the text tool at all, so we'll bring it down here. So we can change the location on the screen over here and all that stuff. It's obvious that the size is going to be controlled through the font and everything else. So we can drop this down and select whatever font we want. There we go. Make our font bigger. We can move it around to anywhere we want. We can read content from a file, so that's always nice. We'll go ahead and change the color here to blue. There we go. And of course we can add effects to this. So we can add a glow or a drop shadow or any of the other effects that are available. We can add right into our text. Pretty cool. Doesn't really have any features outside of what you can find in OBS. It doesn't look like we have the ability to add a stroke to it. But we can add a drop shadow, as you see right there, and of course a glow to it. Then we've got Markdown, and what this does is it gives you the ability to make notes and comments. It adds text up here that you could put in there that isn't going to generally be broadcast to the stream. As far as I know, that's kind of what Markdown is. And then we've got some widgets. So right here we have the combo widget. This is a widget that is going to basically replicate when somebody does any form of donation or subscription or anything like that. What this will do is it will kind of fill up the bar. I'll show you on the preview. And then it will go down and down and down over a period of time. And then when we get another subscriber or whatever, it will refill the bar. Pretty cool stuff. So it allows you to combo those together. And you can see you've got Twitch cheer, Twitch sub, YouTube super chat, and YouTube member. You can turn them on and off over here. And we have one last widget that I can show you over here. It is called the Spotlight, and basically the Spotlight appears to be some sort of a alert system. I didn't really get it to work all that well, but you can put a cheer event in there. It looks like text comes up, but when I scroll down a little farther, we also have like a little icon that spins right here. And if we scroll down, we can change up all kinds of different things with this. We can turn these on and off. We can set these presets. And of course, we can add effects to them as well. So it kind of has a built-in, pretty rudimentary alert system, which is kind of nice. We can actually add audio tracks if we want to add audio, or there's audio in any sort of video clips that we attach to these. And I'm assuming that when you go and you set up your preferences and you attach to YouTube and Twitch, that's the kind of thing that's going to go ahead and trigger those alerts so they work properly, which is really cool. Because it means if you set those up right, you don't have to use ones from third-party sources. Now you can right-click on anything and go ahead and delete it, like you saw there. and it doesn't give you any pop-up or anything that asks you if you want to delete it. It just does. So there are a lot of transition features missing from this and some other things that I use all the time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't replace OBS with Meld Studio. I think there are definitely some folks out there that would love the really simple way that a lot of these features work, the cool move transition that's built right in, and you could definitely build a really professional looking and cool stream using this. I couldn't use it because I need masks and I need to be able to remove my background and I need to be able to do all that stuff. However, if you're just starting out with live streaming and you wanted to use Meld Studio, I don't see anything wrong with that. You could get up and running really quickly and put together some really nice looking scenes that are going to be absolutely fantastic. The only big question that I have is this. If you're just starting out live streaming, admittedly OBS seems daunting and overwhelming. However, they have an automatic configuration wizard, and just setting up a basic scene really isn't any more complicated than this. You create a scene, you add a source, camera or otherwise, and you make sure your audio works. It's really not any more complicated than this to just set up a basic scene. So if you're going to do that anyways, why not start out in OBS with the basics? Sure, you can't roll in your corners and you don't have drop shadow right out of the box and all that sort of thing. I get that. But when you're learning the ropes anyways, those little things that'll beauty up a stream like this are great, but they're also a crutch. Because once you get to the point where you really want to do something next level, the features just aren't available here. Whereas if you start out in OBS with just the basics, you can learn as you go. And like I said early on, the best way to learn is to go ahead and mess it up, break it, and then try to figure out how to fix it. There are definitely people who will absolutely love Meld Studio, and it can replace OBS for specific types of streamers. But for the vast majority, I still recommend that you download OBS and start to figure it out. Because the sooner you start to use it, the easier it's going to be to figure out all those complicated things. And next thing you know, you're going to be creating all kinds of crazy things that you can't possibly do in Meld. Now, all that is just my opinion, of course. What do you think of Meld Studio? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to learn the basics of OBS to stream to YouTube or pretty much anywhere else, check this video out. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks to help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Feyrer Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.